Behind the sterile walls of intensive care units, where life hangs in the balance, not all stories have rational explanations. Welcome to 8 terrifying intensive care stories that actually happened. These are real accounts from medical professionals and patients who experienced things that defy logical explanation. What you're about to hear isn't fiction. These events actually occurred in hospitals around the world. Some remain unexplained to this day, while others reveal the dark side of medical care. Prepare yourself for 8 true stories that will make you see intensive care units in a completely different light. Story 1. The patient who predicted deaths. In 2012, a 76-year-old woman named Eleanor was admitted to an ICU in Boston with respiratory failure. The medical staff noticed something disturbing. Whenever Eleanor woke from sedation, she would point to another patient's bed and whisper, "There next." The first time it happened, the staff dismissed it as confusion. But when 3 consecutive patients she indicated died within hours of her prediction, the medical team became deeply unsettled. A nurse documented that Eleanor had correctly predicted 7 deaths during her 3-week stay. When questioned, Eleanor claimed she could see a dark figure standing beside the beds of those about to die. The most chilling part? Eleanor correctly predicted her own death, telling a nurse, "It's standing beside me now," just hours before she suffered a fatal cardiac arrest. Medical records confirm the timing of these deaths, but no explanation was ever found. Story 2. The Night Shift Imposter. In 2018, a Chicago hospital became the site of a terrifying case of medical impersonation. For 6 consecutive nights, ICU nurses reported working alongside a woman who identified herself as Dr. Sarah Reynolds, a new resident. She examined patients, accessed records, and even administered medications. On the 7th night, a senior physician noticed discrepancies in patient charts and questioned her credentials. When security was called, the woman vanished. Hospital records showed no Dr. Reynolds was employed there, and more disturbingly, security footage only showed her entering the hospital, never leaving. Further investigation revealed 3 patients had unexplained complications after her treatments. The most alarming discovery came when authorities identified her as Melissa Jenkins, a woman who had died 2 years earlier in that same ICU. To this day, the case remains unsolved, with some staff refusing to work night shifts in that unit. Story 3. The Unexplained Epidemic. In 2015, a peculiar case baffled staff at a Seattle hospital's ICU. Over the span of 2 weeks, 7 unrelated patients developed identical symptoms: uncontrollable tremors, followed by vivid hallucinations, where they all described seeing the same child in Victorian clothing at the foot of their beds. Medical tests revealed no biological cause, and toxicology screens came back negative. The phenomenon ceased as mysteriously as it began, but not before a historian contacted the hospital with a disturbing revelation. The hospital had been built on the site of a former children's sanitarium, where in 1891, 7 children died of an undiagnosed illness with identical symptoms. Even more unsettling, the outbreak in 2015 began on the anniversary of those deaths. None of the modern patients had knowledge of this history, and medical authorities never provided an official explanation for the synchronized hallucinations. Story 4. The Nurse's Deadly Secret. Between 2008 and 2010, an ICU in a small New Jersey hospital experienced an abnormally high mortality rate during night shifts. Initially, the deaths were attributed to the severity of patients' conditions until a nurse named Rebecca noticed a pattern. Patients were dying during the shifts of her colleague, Charles Cullen. Rebecca began secretly documenting medication discrepancies and patient symptoms, eventually gathering enough evidence to alert authorities. The investigation revealed Cullen had been deliberately administering lethal doses of digoxin and insulin to patients. When arrested, he confessed to killing as many as 40 patients, though investigators believe the actual number may exceed 400 across the 9 hospitals where he had worked over 16 years. What makes this case particularly chilling is how long Cullen operated undetected, moving from hospital to hospital despite suspicious circumstances following him. He later claimed he killed patients to end their suffering, though many victims were actually recovering and near release. Story 5. The coma patient who heard everything. In 2005, 32-year-old Michael Adams was admitted to an ICU in Toronto following a catastrophic car accident. Declared brain dead with no hope of recovery, his family maintained a vigil for weeks while medical staff discussed organ donation in his presence. After 47 days, against all medical expectations, Michael regained consciousness and made a full recovery. What horrified his medical team was Michael's ability to recall conversations that had occurred at his bedside while he was supposedly unconscious, including detailed discussions about harvesting his organs. He recounted hearing doctors tell his family he would never recover, feeling panic but unable to communicate. Most disturbing was his recollection of a senior physician saying they needed to speed things along as another patient urgently needed his heart. Following Michael's recovery, 2 physicians at the hospital resigned, and the case prompted an investigation into protocol for determining brain death and organ procurement procedures. Michael's case remains one of the most well-documented instances of covert awareness during supposed brain death. Story 6. The Haunted ICU Room. At a prestigious London hospital, ICU Room 307 became notorious among staff for its unusually high mortality rate. From 2013 to 2016, approximately 86% of patients placed in this room died unexpectedly. Despite not being the most critical cases, staff reported equipment malfunctions, unexplained temperature drops, and call buttons activating with no one pressing them. Multiple nurses documented hearing whispers and seeing a figure in a doctor's coat standing over patients at night, though security cameras never captured any unauthorized personnel. After a thorough investigation ruled out environmental factors, infections, or staff negligence, hospital administration reluctantly closed the room. During subsequent renovation, construction workers discovered a sealed area behind one wall containing human remains, later identified as Dr. Harold Mitchell, who had disappeared in 1974 after being accused of euthanizing patients. Following the remains' proper burial, the room was reopened in 2017 and has since shown normal patient outcomes. Story 7. The Transplant That Transferred Memories. In 2011, 27-year-old Jennifer received a heart transplant from an anonymous donor at a Phoenix hospital ICU. During recovery, she began experiencing vivid dreams about a woman named Claire being attacked in a parking garage. These dreams included specific details like a blue Honda with a dented fender and a man with a snake tattoo. Jennifer reported these disturbing visions to her transplant psychologist, who contacted authorities. Remarkably, police confirmed that Jennifer's donor, Claire, had been murdered in exactly the manner and location Jennifer described, by an assailant matching her description who had never been caught. Using Jennifer's detailed recollections, police identified and arrested the killer, who drove the exact vehicle Jennifer had described in her dreams. The case gained attention in medical communities as an extreme example of cellular memory, a controversial theory suggesting that memories or personality traits can be stored in organs outside the brain. The hospital documented Jennifer's case extensively, as she had no possible way of knowing these details about her donor, whose identity was supposed to remain confidential. Story 8. The Patient Who Arrived Before the Accident. In 2019, emergency staff at a San Francisco hospital were bewildered when a 43-year-old woman named Sarah Mills checked herself into the ER complaining of chest pain. The attending physician, Dr. Patel, recognized her immediately. He had treated her in the ICU 6 months earlier. What confused him was that hospital records showed Sarah had died during that previous stay. When confronted, Sarah became agitated, insisting she'd never been hospitalized before. During her examination, she received a call that her husband had just been in a serious car accident and was being transported to this same hospital. Even more disturbing, as her husband was wheeled in, Dr. Patel realized he was treating the exact injuries he remembered treating on Sarah months before. Security footage confirmed Sarah had entered the hospital 30 minutes before her husband's accident was reported. The coincidence became truly chilling when Sarah suffered a cardiac arrest identical to the one that supposedly killed her in Dr. Patel's previous experience. The hospital's ethics committee launched an investigation, but found no explanation for what appeared to be a case of déjà vu on an impossible scale. These 8 stories from intensive care units around the world remind us that some medical mysteries remain beyond our understanding. Whether explained by science or forever unexplained, they reveal the thin line between life and death that exists in every ICU. If you found these true accounts fascinating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more unexplained medical mysteries. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced anything unexplainable in a hospital setting? Until next time, remember that sometimes the most frightening stories are the ones that actually happened.